Mafi unfortunately could not join us, but we still have amazing people amongst us. So with no particular order, I will just let you introduce yourself. Let's say we start with Genet, alphabetical order.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Genet. I'm from Ethiopia. I am the founder and creative director of Paradise Fashion. I have been doing my business specifically focusing on Ethiopian hand-woven fabric and modern design. Since I start my work, I have tried to work a lot on Ethiopian hand-woven fabric in making it in a better way for customers. So I think I will continue talking about more once we finish introducing. Thank you for this amazing opportunity. It would be nice to share ideas and exchange also knowledge. Thank you.
And Meheret, I think you're on mute, so maybe let me go ahead.
Go ahead, please. I'm trying to say that it would be nice to hear a little bit more about you because some new guests might join us. Some have heard a little bit about you yesterday, so please present yourself.
Sorry, Meheret, were you saying me? So let me just go ahead. Yes. I'm McCreath. I'm the founder of KikoRomeo. It's a sustainable fashion brand based in Nairobi in Kenya. I have been in this business for about 25 years. And most recently, since 2019, I've had the joy of mentoring designers in Ethiopia. Luckily, I was able to visit frequently in 2019, and then 2020, we did the course online. But it's been a joy to interact with the Ethiopian fashion industry and then also just compare things with the Kenyan fashion industry. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Okay, and next up is the one and only Hortense. Hortense, will you please tell us a little bit more about yourselves?
Thank you, Meheret. So I'm Hortense, or Hortense Mbea. I'm originally from Cameroon. I founded a brand called Afropian in 2017. So it's a lifestyle brand that, you know, I do fashion, I do accessories, I do home decor, and I've started venturing into furniture as well. And the idea is to be a Pan-African brand that showcases African excellence. So I work a lot with artisans from all over the continent, and I try to put a specific focus on Ethiopia and blend maybe Ethiopia with the rest of Africa a little bit more. So I'm here as a representative for my cohort from the Good Business Accelerator program. I'm very excited for this panel, and thank you for having me.
It's a joy. And last but not least, we have Jochen Moninger. I hope I said that right. I apologize in advance if I didn't. Who comes from a different angle. He's neither a designer, nor does he run a textile company, but he's quite experienced in this sector. So we will let him introduce himself.
Well, my name is Jochen. Yeah, indeed, I am new to the topic of textile and fashion. But I'm a specialist on company development in Africa, in low-income markets, but also export focus. So I bring wealth of experience on how to make companies big in different market segments and to overcome the challenges in doing so. And I have been working with around 60 textile companies in Ethiopia over the last year with the focus of job creation. And I think we have been well successful. Out of the 60 companies, in average, each one has created around 20 jobs within 12 months, despite COVID. So that shows a little bit the power of the market. If, of course, you bet on the right market segments you would like to follow.
Okay. Since I started with Genet, I'm going to come back to you. Because it's been almost 30 years, if I'm not mistaken, that you have been in this industry. So can you start telling us about some challenges?
Thank you. Actually, you know, I just really want to emphasize, even though we have so many challenges, as a company and as a person, as a people behind the scene, which I have worked with so many people in my company, I want to emphasize that I don't want to talk a lot about the challenge, even though we have so many challenges, especially after COVID. It has been quite difficult for everybody to cope with business, to sell our products, etc., etc. But I want to talk a little bit more first about the good things that we're doing, you know, especially for me, working for 30 years almost now. In 2022, it'll be 30 years that I have been in the business, working on the handwoven sector, and to be here today as a successful business woman with all my people behind me, I think, and also by ourselves, winning all the challenges, I think it is something that we need to be very grateful about. And secondly, as a company, one company could not be sustainable by itself. There are so many components, and it's through the process that we're going through when we build our company. So one of the main challenges in Ethiopia for me in this 30 years that I focused a lot more is not only creating jobs, it is more getting the right educated people for the sector that we work for. So that was one of the biggest challenge, which is as of today, of course, we can hire a lot of people saying that we have on our payroll, etc., but getting the right process or the right way of putting, going through developing a country and people that they would help you to develop to the next level, I think we need more educated people in our sector. I think that is one of the biggest challenge. I think Anne can say more about that on the sector. It's not only about Ethiopia, about these things, because it may be Ethiopia now, we have so of the day, if we go inside there, one of the biggest challenge is having educated people in the sector, in all sense, starting from CAD design, grading, fashion design, name it. Since I start, of course, there is a huge difference. We have a lot of young, like putting these things in a proper process where somebody has to be really successful and grow with the time and be where he wants to be in 30 years. Of course, not failing in 30 years, being here today, it is a success. At the same time, not being a company that you might have 100 employees is not a success. So those are the challenges that we were facing, is like having not so many educated people in our sector. But we help a lot our community when it comes in the hand weaving sector. We work a lot with grassroots people that they are not educated. There are people, they just know how to weave. Maybe they just know how to spin cotton or silk, wherever. So we have worked a lot, giving them a training, taking them to be sustainable, that they can have a bread to eat, so we could give more job opportunities for those kind of people, even though they are not under our payroll. Especially in my case, I have a women cooperative that they work with their own premises where the government gave them, but give them an opportunity, giving them more work, training them the quality that I want, if it is an export or the local business. So in terms of community, we have done so much on that also. So what has changed in my sector, especially, is having a lot of people there now in the sector, but is not going in a perfect process way to reach to where we want to reach. So if we count, there are very few companies that they are really successful because of money is one of our problem, access to finance to grow how we want to grow. And that is the limitation also, because sometimes we can have the most brilliant ideas, but it limits us not to grow when you can't have the money to invest in technology, to invest in machinery, to invest in people. even to bring someone to train our people, because I have worked, we used to have a garment factory, and we brought people from Germany that they came, they train our people, and they go. So those kind of things, it needs finance. So that is also one of the challenge in this way, because not having access to finance, not having a collateral to go to the bank and ask, all that are a big challenge. But in general, I think there is a lot of opportunity in Ethiopia where still we can work to make it a success. And I believe instead of having small cane, to bring those cane together, make them together and have the best of knowledge that we have, and to take us to the next level. That could be one of the opportunity. Or as a company, what is that company needed to go to the next level, to study a little bit more about the challenges each company is facing, because all of us had a very different need, and also what we need in our company in terms of product development. It could be in terms of online business, in terms of hiring educated people, all that things. I think it depends on each company. So I think assessing each company, what is the specific need of that company, I think would help to take us to the next level. So I think I will finish here. If you have more questions, I think we can make it more interactive once we go in through the process of the discussion. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Hortense, I have a question for you. And you are currently joining the Good Business Accelerator program as a startup with Afropian, which is one of my favorite brands. I cannot say enough. So I'm wondering what the challenges are in the Ethiopian market for a young business.
As a startup, yeah, there are indeed challenges, like issues that we find in other African countries as well, because I don't operate only in Ethiopia. I have suppliers in different African countries, and the issues are similar. There are issues related to people not meeting deadlines and not taking deadlines seriously. There's issues related to having a consistent quality supply, which is really problematic for designers in Ethiopia. Even when it comes to finding, like zippers and buttons, you might find them today and then they'll disappear for 6 months. You can't really rely on local suppliers that much. There's also, as Genet said, the issue of skilled labor, and the fact that maybe, there needs to be more investment in training this in this sector, training tailors, pattern makers, cutters, designers, so that we can actually have like a reservoir of skilled people that we can, tap into. That's really an issue, finding qualified people and being able also to retain them. That's been a little bit problematic for me so far. But just like Genet, I really don't want to focus only on the negatives and the challenges. I think we're very fortunate to be in this African and in this Ethiopian context. I think that these issues and challenges can easily be managed. My motto is always having a plan B. So if it doesn't work on the right, I'll go to the left. There always needs to be options. You can't rely on one single option. You need to have many. So these challenges make us creative. They make us more resilient. They make us adapt more easily. And in a context of COVID-19, for example, I think that that's something, those are skills that allowed us to pivot and to see other opportunities and to stand on our feet and not be depressed, because we've been through so much already as African businesses. So a little COVID wasn't going to, throw us on our backs and throw us off. So I think that, all of these challenges make us very resilient. And something that I love about operating in Ethiopia and in Africa, something that I love about this continent, is the human side of business. It's the fact that I know my artisans by name. I know their children, I know their issues. There's this kind of family bond that you manage to create with these people that you might not find in a different context. And that's something I feel very blessed to have. So again, it's a positive. We have, these amazing artisans, which only exist maybe sometimes even in Ethiopia. There's things that I've seen here that I've seen nowhere else. I was in Dorze recently, and I saw that, they're one of the UNESCO heritage sites, actually, cultural heritage. Mm-hmm. They have these amazing traditions where they weave absolutely everything, even their houses. Mm-hmm. And they use every single part of this. They call it the fake banana tree. They use every single part of that tree to make houses, to make clothing, to make their food. So we have this incredible source of inspiration, which is our culture, our surroundings, our stories. I feel that I'm in the most inspiring environment that I could wish for. And so the challenges they don't outweigh all of the positive aspects. So I really, really want to say how blessed I feel to be in this context.
Thank you for that. So now I'm going to switch to Anne, because I do know that you are jumping, if I may say, I don't know if jumping is the right word, but between different countries and markets. So I'm wondering, again, what are your views for the fashion and textile sector in Ethiopia, also when you have the opportunity to compare it to other countries, maybe?
I'd like to take up actually some of the points that Genet made, because I think in general in Africa, we have the whole thing of the fashion industry is maybe not well understood by governments. They look at textiles and textile manufacturing and maybe these huge factories with stitching and so on as a way to develop the economy and create jobs. But they don't usually understand the value of fashion, the value add of fashion. And so what we find is we don't have not just the designers and the cutters and so on, the seriousness of the training, but we don't have, say, accountants or technical people like techies and other professions that are needed in the fashion industry wanting to work in the fashion industry. We also find that fashion businesses are undercapitalized. Like, for example, if Genet or Hortense or myself want to do a mass market line, an affordable clothing line, and really distribute it across the country and make it trendy and fashionable and something that the market really wants, where do we get that capital from? And it's almost like the manufacturers, if they could combine with the designers, the manufacturers do have access to finance because they have so many assets, machinery, buildings, and so on that they can leverage in their borrowing. But designers have very unique skills which are essential in a final product that's going to fly off the shelf. But they don't need big buildings, lots of machinery, and so on. So it's that lack of understanding of the role that a designer plays in growing the whole textile economy, because a designer really should be at the lead of that, feeding into retailing and so on. And that's not unique to Ethiopia. Kenya's doing the same, other countries are doing the same. So I hate to say, but my name's usually men in suits, because I find the part of the textile chain that's taken seriously are the kind of textile manufacturers who are usually men who've maybe specialized in textile technology. And the women are often the ones in the fashion sector, the design sector. And somehow in politics, it often seems to be the men that call the shots. So these other things are kind of overlooked as, oh, that's a woman's thing. Or, and as a result, the whole industry, whether it's, and this really talks to finance as well, because you can't turn out a line that's going to clothe your nation in a fashionable way, and then you're going to have other brands doing the same to give the consumer choice. You can't do that without a lot of capital, because the more the volume, the more capital you need in your cash flow. You have to keep stocks vibrant and so on. So it's that really damages both the human resources going into the fashion industry, the finance, and then the seriousness with which policies are made within governments to take the industry forward. I don't know if I answered your question, but that's what I'm seeing in many countries.
You actually have. I am also checking to see if Azariah Mengistu has joined us. I'm going to try and see if he's able to now answer some of the questions that we have for him. But until he does, I have a question for you, Jochen. So from your perspective as a consultant and also as a project manager who usually assists companies in terms of improving their businesses, what do you see as things that they should change? What do you see? Again, I'm going to have to say the word challenge, but again, that's also one of the words that help us find solutions. So can you help us with that?
Well, let me answer that question by looking on different market segments, yeah? Specifically in Ethiopia, we have the favor of having a huge local market. We have 120 million people, and all of them have to wear clothes every day. So that's an immense market, and a market which is tremendously underserved. So what I've been doing the last years, I have worked with companies, with producer companies. They're working in the rural second tier, third tier cities. Interesting entrepreneurs who managed to get a few sewing machines, having a basic idea of how to produce or how to copy, better to say, yeah, how to copy certain clothes. But amazing entrepreneurs. Anything they produce, independently of the quality they produce, and indeed the quality often is very bad, they sell everything. So that's absolutely amazing. Those entrepreneurs have challenges. So one challenge is raw material supply. So normally they have to drive to Addis to get to one of those Chinese companies, buying a supply, bring it back, and then basically continue fabricating clothes. And that kind of access to raw material, let it be the cotton, let it be the yarn, let it be spare parts for machineries, that's an issue for them. And that's an area where they can improve. Product quality is an issue for them. So we realized when we send in specialists to help them, only in 2 weeks classes, we can increase efficiency and also quality of product by above 30%. Yeah? And now saying that these entrepreneurs are all very smart, all of them want to make money. Of course, they take that opportunity. They improve by 30% by a simple 2 weeks training, and they make more money, create more jobs, and of course, supply more clothes to the local markets. They also have a management problem, obviously. Many of them are grown endogenically. They don't speak English. They have never gone to a management class. So what we do is we help them to set up simple accounting systems, tracing systems, supply come in, supply is used, product is produced, there's a stock, an inventory that goes out to help them to get an overview over the business. Many of such companies, it's amazing, they have a revenue of 200,000 euros. So it's not small money, yeah, they are making, but they don't have bank accounts, yeah, obviously. They don't pay taxes, yeah, for the employees. So all of that is areas of improvement and challenges. And me personally, I think that such companies with that local market, they can grow even to revenues of 1 million plus. So I have seen some of them getting specialized, producing, for example, suits in the local market, or in Ethiopia, very special, the traditional clothes made from cotton weaving, and then dressed and prepared with nice coloring and design. And it's amazing how these guys are selling. I've seen factories full, 80 people working from morning to night, producing a quality of product, offering it to the market to a relatively cheap price, a price that is half of the price you would pay in Addis Ababa. So I explained a little bit how we can support such entrepreneurs and also how big the market is. So then there's a second category of entrepreneurs. I call them the Mercado entrepreneurs. This is basically also producing for mass market in Ethiopia, but going via the capital city distributors. Yeah? And obviously they get even to a much higher scale than when you try yourself to open your rural markets. So here, especially around Addis Ababa, we have a setup of amazing, again, production lines. So this is entrepreneurs with 50, 60 sewing machines, again, busy from morning to the evening, but without any competence in design or pattern making. Even to create a pattern is not part of the value chain. So what they simply do is they go to the market, they take a trouser, they take a shirt, they take it to the shop and they copy it. And because the market is so immense, yeah, they are selling and they are making money. The margin is not bad. They are making money by that. Again, challenge is to improve efficiency. Similarly, by helping them to reshuffle their production line, a 30% efficiency increase can be reached in a pretty short time. Obviously, they have management issues, as described just now already. they have also the issue of pattern. So we, for example, we have been approaching a few designers. Wouldn't you have an interest to give your skills to such people who have a specialty in manufacturing? But that's a link we not really managed to establish, but I say it's a market niche, but definitely some gains for all sides, yeah, can be created. And who knows, maybe even for the low income markets, we can do some fashion design, which is new, and which can be an innovation in the market. Yeah, we not only have to design for the rich ones, is my personal opinion. So that's also one category of companies. And then, of course, we have the categories of designers. So let's say the world of fashion. And here my talkers, and I see now Azariah joined, obviously they know much better. They have amazing products. Yeah. But now the question is how to get these products to the market. Yeah? And again, I believe in Ethiopia, and even if you go to Eastern Africa, it's an amazingly big market. Yeah? I have talked to one entrepreneur, she's not on this panel. She says when she goes to Kenya, she's a designer, a former model. If she goes to Kenya, she carries 4 bags of her clothes from Ethiopia, and she says she sells it within 2 hours. Without a shop, only in a hotel room, yeah. By posting on social media, she sells it out. And the same happens actually in Ethiopia. What we have seen the last months, the last few years with the online distribution channels of Yellow Page, I think it's called, and others, they are creating new markets, yeah. And the purchase power, yeah, I think also in Ethiopia is unbelievable high. Yeah, you have a middle income class that is ready to pay for good clothes. And that's definitely not something which is very well harvested, yeah, and can be improved. And let me lose a few words about export. So we have been working with 4 or 5 companies also to addressing export. And we have found quite a few challenges, for example, on the logistics side, when it comes to the customs, yeah, in Ethiopia, you need to receive the payment first before you're allowed to ship it outside, which is an issue because normally a buyer in Europe, he would say, give me your thing, I'm selling it, and 3 months later, I'm paying you. So it's a logistic challenge, which is just there in the market. Of course, working capital is an issue, also for the local guys, by the way, how to buy the cotton, which you use to manufacture and sell later. So that's definitely an area where improvement can happen, how working capital can be enabled. However, I've seen also quite a few banks in Ethiopia who have started to open financing windows on that. And I think here the entrepreneurs, they need to be empowered to present the business case in a way that banks can work on it. So it's not, there is no financing, but it's also the SMEs need to be empowered to present their case so it can be financed. So last words on this export. So on the export, we realized everyone dreams of its own web shop. And then everyone goes to that web shop and is buying. But that's just not the reality, because to create attraction on your web shop, on your brand, it's an immense cost. So you need to invest into Google Ads, you need to invest into other kind of promotion items to get an awareness to the customer. And that costs money. So we are following right now 2 other approaches, which I think are interesting. So one is, for example, introducing Ethiopian brands with a specific story, of course, story of sustainability, of traditional heritage, yeah, and things like that, to European agents. I mean, in Europe, how markets in the shopping malls, in the shopping centers work, is you not go there as an entrepreneur, you want to buy my shoe, but you have a professional representative who has the contacts, who takes your product and your story and who sells you. Now, of course, these people take a margin, yeah, but this is the way of how you can create a network of buyers. Because I talked to quite a few designers now, here also active in Ethiopia, and they say, yes, we are exporting. Okay, what are you exporting? Yeah, 50 pieces, 100 pieces. So that's a revenue of 2,500 euro. Yeah, so nobody can sustain a business based on that. The thing is, you not only need one buyer, but you need 10, 20, 100. And you cannot develop that yourself without a brand recognition. So you need someone to represent you. So that's the agent strategy, which I think is not for SMEs in Ethiopia, which gives some options to scale. And then we are trying another thing, which we call low invest distribution. So basically we say, yes, we have to sell online, but not on your own web shop. So go to the web shops that already have traction, yeah, like Fairlink, Amazon, others. And it also has downsides and upsides, yeah, but at least you don't have to search your customer. Your customer has a chance to find yourself. But now again, it's a very specific art of how to present your product on such websites, how to put the picture, how to put the text, the description, so a European end customer would be willing to buy it. Yeah. So with a few companies, we're trying to work out a manual to enable just that, enable them to put their products on such websites. Of course, that comes with other challenges. You need an IT person. You need someone who is fluent to communicate and also to check the emails and not only responding a week later, having all the documents of certifications in place and so on. So I described to you a few market segments right now. Yeah, and from the very local rural to the Addis Ababa town, which I think it's an amazing market, completely underserved. And I see that in many product categories. Whatever product you offer in Ethiopia, you sell it in a very fast time because it's a market where demand is bigger than offer. Yeah, and we have the export market everyone is dreaming about. But if you go to export, you compete with global brands, with global competitors. So you need the right strategy. And I presented you two strategies, either going via an agent structure with the right story, or going, for example, by using existing web platforms and trying to place your product there. So let me stop here.
Okay. All right, thank you. I see that Azariah has joined us. So welcome, hello. So I am going to start by asking you to present yourself briefly. And then I have a question or two lined up for you, considering you also work with Jochen. So please present yourself, Azariah, and welcome.
Thank you. Apologies for my tardiness. It's for good reason, but I'll spare you the excuse. My name is Azariah. I am the co-founder and CEO of Enzi. So we're a premium brand. We make handcrafted footwear. And most of our market is in the export market. So we sell mostly in the US. We last week or 2 weeks ago just partnered up with a really exciting retailer in Hong Kong. With Jochen's help, we're trying to make some inroads into Europe. COVID has kind of put some delays on that, but it's been almost 11 years now since we first started. I think we spent the first 5.5 years trying to work with existing factories in Ethiopia to kind of build this brand and make these products and kind of just add our soft skills on top of what these large factories the capacity they already had. And it was just never going to work. We realized, me and my co-founder, we're never going to change the culture or the working methods of a factory that has 200-300 employees. So about 5 years ago, we set up our own small workshop in a garage, started with 2 employees, and everything, all the success we've had with Enzi has come from that small operation, which has grown now. And that's Enzi in a nutshell. I think it's an attainable story. We never had a huge influx of cash to invest in machinery or components. It's all about everything is done by hand, so it's all about attention to detail. And I think it's just a really powerful narrative of the potential that lies not just in African commodities, but in African people when you invest in them. I don't know if I was too short or too long, but that's me in a nutshell.
That was actually on point, but I do have a question for you since, you just got here, so we're going to drill you a little. I know that you recently went through a program to access international markets, and I believe that that's a project where Jochen was also involved, yeah? So can you tell us a little bit about it in terms of the challenges to go international for an Ethiopian company? I keep going back to the word challenge, not so much because I like the negative aspect of it, but it's because it's going to help us in terms of asserting the solutions, especially for the new people joining the domain. So please tell us a little bit about how that was for you.
Yeah, it's a really good question. Yeah, so this people have been talking about finance here, and I feel like from the very beginning, I thought we had everything figured out with Enzi. I was like, man, if we only had money, we could make this work. If we only had money, we could make this work. And I mean, there might be some degree of truth to that, but I realize there's a lot of knowledge that we had to acquire. And there's so much knowledge that we're acquiring in this project as well. I've taken a part in a couple of projects run by different organizations. The one that we're doing with Jochen now has by far been the most informative, the one that's developed us the most and prepared us the most for kind of what to expect in an international market. All the international market traction we've gotten has been on our own. It's exactly what Jochen's talking about, where we managed to establish relationships with a handful of boutiques that have placed between 50 and 150 pair orders, at a go. And you're on a tight budget when that's your revenue stream. And due to just some of our network that we have in some other parts of the country, we're able to set up a very bootleg version of international logistics to fulfill orders that came through directly through our website. So that's how we kind of sustain things. We never knew, we learned a lot about just how cyclical sales is in this industry, right? You could have the best product, a really attractive price, but if you're knocking on the doors at the wrong time, right, it's meaningless. So how cyclical, how far in advance you have to be preparing your designs, knowing the right people, right? We did hire a sales agent that did nothing for us in the US, just because it just wasn't the right fit, and it burnt us. We lost money, investing in that partnership. So having someone to guide you to say, this is a legitimate salesperson, is having the right kind of conversations, and then, the right kind of sales. So knowing your capacity, knowing the scale at which you can grow or the scale you want to grow, and then making a sales strategy around that, and there's been so much more we've been learning throughout this project as well. But there was just a lot that we've grown a lot. We've become a lot more professional through this project. We still have a long way to go, but it's been really impactful. I don't think we'll ever go back to how we operated before, because this kind of scale, this kind of growth, if nothing else, it drives down the margin of your entire operation. When you have to scale up to that kind of level and that kind of efficiency, which even makes your one-off sales or your direct-to-consumer sales just even more profitable. So it's key for everyone to, I think, unless you have really high margins and a really premium product and you can get by with just selling 30, 40, 50 pairs or units a month, but if you want to have that kind of scalable business and business that's growing at a rate to give you the capacity to really financially have some impact in your community and hire people and give real valuable employment opportunities to people, you need this kind of guidance, this kind of sales guidance that we've gotten with the project that Jochen's been helping us with.
Okay. All right. So,
and I would say that even if he wasn't on the call.
Okay. But I still have a continuation program. Won't let you off this easy. So I think that, if I'm not mistaken, one of the outcomes of this program was the platform called Ethiopian Fashion Community, right? So what's the idea behind it? How does it work? And do you think that this could be eventually an initial point to establish a broader network maybe for this sector in Ethiopia?
Yeah, that's the whole point. So yeah, feel free to go to EthiopianFashionCommunity.com and you can see what we've been building. Part of the strategy was that the initial market entry costs are very high for new brands. So we partnered up with there's 3 companies that have partnered together to kind of create a platform where we share a lot of the costs, we mitigate a lot of risk. And still get the value of entering this market. So we were the fortunate ones who were chosen. We're non-competing brands. If we were similar products, obviously it'd make an initial sales effort a bit, maybe a bit confusing. But we're very similar in story and in ethos and in our purpose. So it was a good match. And so we're we're I guess the guinea pigs or the spear, the tip of the spear, if you will. The goal in the long term is at the very least to create a model people can emulate, if not an actual platform that we can build and a bridge that we can build and bring on. The long-term goal obviously is that plenty of people under Ethiopian fashion community that we can help represent and easily show the logistics solutions, help them prepare for the seasonality of the sales cycles in the international fashion industry, and make sure they're getting the right kind of representation that will lead to sales opportunities that will really grow their businesses.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So I think that we've heard quite a lot about some of the challenges that exist and also some of the proposed solutions and things that we can do together. So to you all on the panel, I'm just going to throw this at you and take turns drilling you. What do you think we can do as a community to solve some of the issues that were mentioned, and also try to see the kind of initiatives or platforms that we already have in Ethiopia in terms of seeing what works, also seeing what doesn't, and trying to understand why, I guess, to be better informed for the future. So in no particular order, Genet, what do you say about that?
Hi, amazing. Thank you for the briefing, Azariah. You really inspired me, so I need to talk to you later, anyway. It is really amazing, and I agree on what Jochen said earlier about, we have the demand locally. If we talk about the local business, not the export, because I have been also in the export, even though it is very small. Really, when he was talking about how small it is when you do 10 pieces, 20 pieces, when it is not sustainable, you could be exporting every year, having all the challenges, because one of the biggest challenge when it comes to the export business is like the payment solution in Ethiopia, it is very limited. So going inside an export business, not having someone to trust you before he received the product, they have to pay you. It is an amazing challenge. So I think we need to have, we have to figure out how we can really even work, who could be the companies that they could focus on the export and who could be the people that they can work on the local. Because from what Jochen was saying, I mean, I was a little bit even not curious, but it is 100% fact that the supply chain and the demand is not by way far, because we import so much things from China, where we really have so many companies is opening garment industries, but everything is focused on export, not on for local. Because if you open a factory, if you get a space in the industrial zone, you have to focus more in export, when we have so many challenges on the export without answering what we do have, what is our need locally. So I think there is a lot to be studied, and I think people like Jochen could be really an asset, where he is now really working closer with people like companies that they work, they sell their products, but they are not structured, they don't pay taxes, etc., etc. Those things are something that I think would be the future for this sector. But being fashion conscious and being a fashion designer or being in the business for 30 years with all the challenges, I think the local market was one of my success, not the export. So sometimes we also need to focus to stay now with all the challenge. I could say when I do the weaving, 10 years ago, I used to have a very high quality input to do my weaving than rather today, because we have the worst quality raw materials nowadays. I'm sorry to say it. No accessories, very low quality. But that comes to what Jochen said. Whatever comes in this country, whatever that has been produced, whether it is a high quality zipper from Germany or Italy or even the US or Hong Kong or China, whoever is buying it maybe is not conscious about that quality, so we can sell it. But company like mine, that we are very conscious in quality and design, etc., we will be very hardly, we can compete with those kind of people when it comes to a price. So I think we have a lot that we can work together, focusing on who can do what, how we can really control the value chain in between us, what Genet can offer, what can Azariah offer, what Hortense can offer. All those companies that they are under with a certain categories, I think we need to learn to collaborate and bring something the best out of each of company and respond whether it is a local market or it's an export market, because I have worked a few years ago with a German company, a very big company, with a collaboration of 4 garment industry. We used to respond all the requests that was coming as an export. For not to say we can't, to match their quality, we used to bring their own quality controller, get the education that we need for our people, and to respond to that demand. But nowadays, I don't see that. Everybody's trying to be successful by its own. So I think that wouldn't lead us to anywhere else. So we need to collaborate and solve our problems in-house and go to the next level. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Genet. I'm going to throw this question to anybody on the panel, Hortense or Jochen, even if you think that you can.
Yeah, I wanted to maybe add again, 3 categories come in my mind. So the export market, indeed, I think needs a joint venture. I mean, we're talking about SMEs, small, medium companies, with all the logistic challenges and also in the representation in the export market. I think with the Ethiopian fashion community, we are trying to promote a concept that can attract Ethiopian producers who adhere to certain standards, of course, and values, in order to and offer them a platform to address the European market, via a web appearance, via an agent system, via a professional management of fairs, and so on. And we think it could be a market opener for the export, because Ethiopian quality is good, Ethiopian story is good, people want to buy clothes with a story, sustainability, traditional heritage, and things like that. So that could be a market opener. When we now go back to Ethiopia, when somebody mentioned the industrial zones, I mean, we have to see here, we're talking about 2 different economies. We're talking about the Ethiopian economy of small, medium enterprises, and I think that is what we have been talking about, and also what I have been talking about. Of course, you have the industrial zones, and that is basically islands in the country. Here we talk about $1 million investments of foreigners, sometimes also Ethiopians. They are doing production, and they are doing it for export, because in Ethiopia, the prices of labor is very cheap. And of course, also the government has given very attractive conditions for companies to produce in Ethiopia. So those companies, let's be clear, they don't have the financial challenges. They have the working capital. They can pre-finance. They have the direct access to the custom office, even to ship their clothes without having received a previous payment. So that's a different cosmos. And there's quite a few initiatives that have been trying to link the industrial zone economy in textile with the SMEs. And I've been also talking to a few guys. And the thing is, it's really separated. There is no linkage. The linkage we have today is there's 1 or 2 Chinese producers of raw material that are bought by SMEs. And there's 1 or 2 small SMEs that produce like accessoires, to the industrial zones, like buttons for the jeans, and things like that. So now, how to link these 2 economies? That there is no solution on the hand. And I'm also not thinking that a joint representation is a solution. However, a joint representation could, for example, lower the prices of SMEs in Ethiopia to access raw materials from the industrial zone companies. So last but not least, the Ethiopian market itself, I'm not sure whether collaboration is the right approach. I think that is a competitive market, and all of you, all entrepreneurs, whether it's SMEs or importers or whatever, need to compete on quality and on price in order to receive customers. So here I don't see the aspect of collaboration, but here I see the aspect of branding and being competitive in what you offer. And I repeat myself, to an amazingly big market. I mean, we have 120 million people. Yeah? So different strategies for different market segments.
Okay, thank you, Jochen. And I'd like to give you the floor. I think I saw a raised hand, and I also have a question for you in terms of examples that you could also share with us in terms of what works, what could be examples to follow. So to you, Anne, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to touch on the aspect of design because we haven't mentioned it yet. And I think this thing of working together, collaborating can be great, but people can only do that when they're confident in what their own brand is about and how they're designing. And what I've noticed is designers do great one-off items, but they haven't been trained how to design a cohesive collection for a specific season, which is therefore reflecting their brand and their aesthetics. And as we've noticed with the training we've been doing, as soon as we do that kind of training, coupled with this defining your own brand DNA, designers come up with completely unique things, even if they're using the same Ethiopian cloth, which when you go into export markets is a major plus. So in my head, I can even envisage 5 to 10 Ethiopian designers doing a pop-up in Nairobi, all using Ethiopian cloth, but now with very distinct look and feel to their silhouettes and their decorative techniques and what they're doing. So I think we need investment also in that design training that builds the confidence to go forward. Thank you.
Exactly, because that, when you were mentioning the aspect of collaborating, I mean, it would be easier, for example, for Azariah who's designing shoes and somebody else who's designing clothes, then no problem. But when I think of Genet's designs that I have been seeing since I was a very little girl, just to tell you that when she started, she was practically one of the first pioneers to come up with this new version of Ethiopian clothing. And you could go down Shoromeda and literally call what she would make, and people would tell you, well, we have the Paradise fashion style. So if collaborating means allowing others to copy your style, and if it ends up, you know, causing commotion, that would be, yeah. So then I believe that this confidence that you mentioned is key.
I mean, if I may step in here, Mehret, I think that collaboration has to be based on trust, and it has to be a win-win collaboration. So you have to carefully pick and choose who you want to collaborate with, especially in the Ethiopian context where copying and pasting is quite acceptable.
Yeah.
You know?
That's why, you know, that's where I was kind of
Genet
going.
knows what I'm talking about. I know, because I'm much younger in the industry, but people are already copying me left and right. And I call that fire underneath you. I mean, people copying you, it's a compliment. It's also something that pushes you to constantly innovate, because you have to be a leader. They're going to chase you and follow you. So keep them on their toes, be creative. When they're done copying this one design, move to the next one, because Coco Chanel said, you can take my ideas, I have so many more, you know? But yeah, indeed, collaboration is very tricky because it has to be win-win. Again, it has to be equal partners. And you have to know who you're getting into collaboration with, because it can't be like a one-off thing. You want it to be something that can be, you know, sustained, that can bring something. So if it's going to be like a one-off event, it's really pointless. It's, you know, lots of energy put into one collection, and then what happens? So you have to pick and choose properly. And I also think, like Anne, that collaborating is the future for Ethiopian fashion and even made in Africa in general. And why? Because we need to create this made in Ethiopia label where people will think, oh, you know, I need this fashionable stuff. I need something that's sustainable and different and unique. I want to go to Ethiopia. Let them not always think about Ghana or Nigeria or Cote d'Ivoire or whatever. Let Ethiopia also become a household name when it comes to fashion, because people don't necessarily think about Ethiopian fashion. They think tradition, they think this feminine. So we need to create this image where we can collectively create this image, this quality, this design, and we will all benefit from it because we will have this reputation. Okay, Hortense makes in Ethiopia, she must be amazing. Genet made in Ethiopia, Azariah, those people make amazing stuff. So this is something that we have to work towards collectively. And we're Africans, there's always going to be, in us, in our DNA, there's this Ubuntu spirit where I can't move if you don't move. We have to move together. We shouldn't forget our African roots. And since I have the floor, we've been talking a lot about export markets, exporting to Europe, to the West, or whatever. But we have a 1.2 billion market in Africa. Why don't we talk about exporting to Africa? Why would my dream not be to clothe people in Cape Town or in Tunis? There's this 1.2 billion market that's standing there for me. You know, it's my people. They also deserve my clothing. They also deserve my products. They want to show their, you know, their love of African products. Let me give them that opportunity as well. And we recently in January had something that was enacted that's called the African Continental Free Trade Area. So there's going to be lifting of so many tariff barriers. There's so many taxes and levies that are being lifted, especially for textile and clothing. So we need to take advantage of that. We'll be able to export all over Africa without paying any duties or taxes. So why not jump on the opportunity? And also, if I can share more information, Afrexim, which is the African Import-Export Bank based in Cairo, is setting up a system called the PAPS. It's the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System that will allow African companies to trade amongst each other in their local currencies. So we know we won't need these letters of credit. We won't need this hard currency. I will buy something in Dakar and I'll be able to pay for it in birr. And the Afrexim Bank will serve as a clearinghouse and as a guarantee, and the payment will go through them. So I also want us to look into African opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Hortense. I will now switch to the questions that I'm getting from the audience, and it goes like this. So there is an education gap, obviously, and how can we manage to solve it? Wondering if the sector itself can do something about it in terms of creating educational programs and to try and see what is being done in general. So anyone who feels that they can take this one, please do.
It is, yeah, I guess I could, I mean, it'll be a relatively short answer. I think that's one of the first things we learned quite early with Enzi was that there is a big education gap that exists. And as part of our long-term vision actually is to set up a design institute, if you will, that kind of teaches design, but also higher end manufacturing or the final end manufacturing, because that potential is there. Something we say at Enzi all the time is that everything after the raw material can be taught, right? You can learn design, you can learn logistics, you can learn sales. You can't learn leather, or you can't learn coffee, or you can't learn whatever it is. And so investing in that value chain, and I think that design, what Anne was talking about, we've all touched on, is something that that is a huge gap here, and something that does need some degree of investment. Yeah.
I think I can add on this. I think there is in Ethiopia, one of the biggest university based in Bahar Dar, the IOTEX University, which is the textile and fashion design is integrated. It has been quite for a while there. I think companies like Jochen can work with the universities to bring really, those students that they are in that university, they are at the higher education. But for what I have seen in that university is like they need a direction, but for example, I have been in Paris and New York. It is a private university, fashion, it is a city of, but giving them a direction from university from Germany or from Europe to bring those expertise that they can really teach or show them the curriculum, it could be, or a specific design. Because what I have seen is in some of the institutions, I'm talking about IOTEX because I don't want to talk with the small fashion institutes because it doesn't have anything to do with what we're doing. So to get the bigger version, to get out students from that sector, from that kind of university, to make them specifically to learn directed, maybe 1-2 years, they will learn the general idea, but then to make it specific, if it is leather design, if it is garment design, if it is baby kids design, if it is menswear, if it is, all the specific designs. When we talk about design, I mean, the fashion is huge. we're talking about in a context where we don't have that luxury here to talk about it. So to collaborate with universities like IOTEX, I think will really help in the future to get very educated kids that they can come out and help the industry, and even to be by themselves and the next entrepreneurs. I mean, I have been in the business for 30 years, but I didn't grow like the way I wanted to be grown because of so many XYZ challenges. So having those kind of help or bringing those kind of education in that kind of context, I think it will help us a lot to move to the next level.
Okay, thank you Genet, for that. So I have another question for anybody that wants to take it again. Do you think that there are already initiatives or platforms or movements that exist within the Ethiopian community to start with? If not, what would be a first step or a concrete idea to do so? Because we all know that we need this, but then how to begin? So what would be the initial concrete step that you would recommend to curb this?
Sorry, Mehret, if you could clarify, concrete step towards what? More education?
Concrete
more
steps in terms of having initiatives or platform or movements to try and connect the community. If they exist, what are they? And if they're not, what do you think is required to get there?
If I can say my part, I mean, I haven't seen much of a collective movement here. I think that there's a lot of mistrust. Again, trust has to be at the core of these initiatives. I haven't seen so many collective initiatives trying to create movements and to bring designers together, even setting up shops collectively. That's something that's very, very rare. So yes, there needs to be some kind of impetus. And I think maybe like our deans, like our models, role models like Genet, are the people who actually could create this kind of an environment, because they have been in the industry for so long and they know how to connect, who to connect. People respect them and trust them. So we need to look to our elders, I think, to set something up in this respect.
Sure. Anybody else on the panel would like to complete that?
I think what I want to add on this, it's inside for me again, sometimes we have to collaborate in a very diplomatic and competitive way, respecting each and everybody's idea and design. As you said, being copied, sometimes it's a privilege, but at the same time, it takes away your time, your energy, how much you invested to bring out a collection. Because I remember when I started, I used to do every year my collection to show to my customers what I'm up to. But as you said, Mehret, I find my collection that is KikoRomeo, which I wouldn't mind, because in the next year I come up with a new collection, etc., etc. But it limits you towards so many things. And people also, they get intimidated by you being the first one to be in the business, or they think. So we need to bring education to people, being collaborative with the respective ideas or clear things. I think it will help you to go to the next level. That's where I believe, honestly. If we don't start collaborating now with the knowledge that I have, with the knowledge XYZ has, until the next generation will come, I have seen so much in 30 years. Trust me, I would be in the same situation to talk about the same issue in 30 years. And I'm sorry to say that, but collaboration and identifying what is my strength, what is Enzi's strength, even because when we talk about footwear, how many kinds of footwear design there are? What is Enzi's producing? He's not producing all the footwears. He have specific footwear he's designing that he's putting out in the market. What is X footwear is doing? How they can collaborate? What people can teach from Enzi? What they can learn from me? What they can learn from you? All that things, I think it matters. We really need to create a way where we can really learn from each other and exchange also knowledge. It's not only about knowledge, experience. I have learned so much in my experience where maybe I would never learn if I was not in this business, where I can really share that with, if there is a platform where I can share that challenges, that the next generation, that they don't have to face it, or to teach them how they can solve that using people like Jochen or the GIZ or the good business people. So many things is coming up
but how we can be collaborative and use that energy to go to the next level. I always believe in collaboration. That's me all these years. It might be wrong, it might be right, but collaboration in our context, I think.
Absolutely. So speaking of collaboration, before I go to another topic, Anne had asked you earlier if you have maybe other examples of what happens in other countries, since you have a foot a little bit everywhere, in terms of doing this type of creating this type of platform, maybe.
I think some countries it works more easily than others, and it depends on the culture. And I mean, I'm on the Kenya Fashion Council, and we had tried for a very long time to bring people together. Various people who were like well known in the industry were trying different initiatives. But I think with a lot of kind of behind the scene work of some people who were very committed, they basically convinced all of the ones that were well known to come together around one table and form a board. And that has worked. It's not always easy because people have different views, but that's really normal. And as soon as you understand that's normal, and that through all this knowledge, you can come together and create something bigger and better for the industry, we find more and more people joining and being willing to support, and just to chart that way forward, which is for the good of the industry in general. So I don't think it's always an easy journey, but I think it's a necessary journey. And I think with people like, Genet started before me. I've known her for a very long time. And, designers like Genet, there's others, Genet in Kenya that have been in it for a long time like me. We want to pass on our skills. We want to share our knowledge. And this thing of just sharing with one intern and another intern and another, you feel like you're not making the same impact that you would if you were doing things collectively. So I really support you in your passion for making this happen. And I think it can work. As I say, it just has to be understood that sometimes these things take time to work out, but it's worth the investment, in my opinion, because collectively, even this thing of sourcing raw materials together, Rwanda's already doing that. The last thing I heard, the designers and tailors had imported 4 container loads of fabrics, because let's not forget, when we're doing fashion lines that are competing with Turkey and China, even if we're manufacturing the clothing in Ethiopia, it's still necessary to have a variety of fabrics because people have different tastes. Now, when you can do that together as an important volume, you can have a much wider choice of things that you're working with, and so you stay more relevant in the market. So yeah, go for it. And best of luck.
Well, yeah, that gives me a lot of hope, because at the end of the day, again, we always highlight the challenges, but a lot more is promising. And like most often we see that as Africans and as a people who has a lot to give, and with the culture and everything that unites us, I think that we have a lot to do, indeed. And like Azariah said, besides raw material, everything else can be learned. So if we create the right platforms, give ourselves the right tools, I think that we can overcome all these challenges that we cited, starting from seed money, whether it's the pace of growth, access to finance, deadlines, and so on, and eventually come up with concrete solutions. So yeah, fortunately, this is what happens when you're enjoying the last panel of a bootcamp fashion that you organized, and time is running. So yeah, I could have talked for another hour, but this is the part where I have to say thank you so much to each and every one of you. I know for sure that I have learned a lot. And yeah, I hope that we will be able to continue this conversation further. But before we close, I do have one last question, and I think it wouldn't be fair not to answer them. So they're wondering if anyone on this panel has had the opportunity to work with the FDA Fashion Designer Association in Addis. Last question, I promise.
I think my application is still pending.
Yeah.
But I mean, I definitely know them. They do some. I know they try and do some. So they have some, I think, some effective projects that are working. I know this collaboration issue is sticky. So, I mean, I think it's partly also due just to how it's a very volatile market, right? So people our businesses aren't that secure. So people are a lot more insecure about being totally honest. So it's not, these associations in developed markets where there's a really established fashion industry. It's a lot more, stable environment where you can, where you can grow. So I think that's part of the reason why people are a little have a hard time here. But yeah, the FDA, I think, is probably one of the successful ones. Hopefully, with Ethiopian fashion community, we're at the beginning. I think one of the keys is starting small. Trying to build something from scratch with 30 companies can be very challenging. So hopefully we can get it right, and it's something, and can kind of create a foundation that will service a lot of companies in the future.
Okay. Well, I think that in the past 2 days, we have learned quite a lot, and starting from the essence of what is required to creating a purposeful brand, the values that come into play, the importance of communication, trust, ethics, and collaboration as well. We also talked about maintaining a brand's DNA, and also mentioned what is required when it comes to making a brand succeed. We also talked about the financial nitty-gritty with Binyam yesterday, and a bit more today with Muluk, and who told us in detail about what comes into play when we try to tackle the export and import regulations and procedures that we have in Ethiopia. We talked about finding our niche. So basically, I mean, we've learned quite a lot, and I do hope that we'll be able to have this type of platform to discuss further and allow the youth to learn from you all. I will not stop without saying thank you to all the speakers that kept us company throughout the 2 days, the audience. Of course, also would like to thank the Good Business for organizing this event, as well as the program partners, Unite and Fashion Revolution Ethiopia, for the support that they gave us. So yeah, on that note, I guess this is the part where we say, see you and see you.